the city of Homs in Syria, 13 killed so far. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I am Ahmad Afra Rashid here with the news in English on Television Maldives. President Dr. Mohammad Wahid, the Chief Commander-in-Chief of the Maldives National Defence Force, appoints Major General Ahmad Shyam as the Chief of Defence Force. The President asked Major General Ahmad Shyam to carry out his duties as the Chief of Defence Force according to the Constitution of the Maldives. The President also requested that a Major General's first priority should be to protect and safeguard the peace and security of the country. Chief of Defence Force Major General Ahmad Shyam previously served as Brigadier General at the Maldives National Defence Force. President Dr. Mohammad Wahid also appointed a media secretary today. The post was given to Masood Imad. Former President Mohammad Nasheed says he was forced to resign. Speaking to local and international media this afternoon, President Nasheed said when he arrived at the army headquarters, sacked military personnel were seen in command of the security forces. He claims that the military personnel threatened to use weapons against him if he did not resign. He said that he was threatened not to speak of the incident at his resignation statement and insist he had been ousted by a coup in a political dispute that sparked a rioting. Former President Nasheed said he expected to be arrested today.
I understand that there is a arrest warrant on me and they are coming to pick me up, as I understand. So the situation is that they are going to arrest me. But I am certain that you cannot suppress anything by brute force. Sentiments and ideas and ideologies live and they will live stronger, and I'm sure that they will breed and we will be able to come back. And this country will survive, and I know my party, I know my people, and I understand them, and they do not want this to happen.
Nasheed rejected claims that he may be forced to leave the country for his own safety.
No, I'm not thinking about leaving the country for my own safety. How can I do that? But one more thing. I think we should implement the decisions of the Judicial Services Commission to make steps on this Chief Judge of the Criminal Court. I think that's very important, and get new judges in the lower courts, judges appointed according to the Constitution. I think that judicial process, the reform of the judiciary is the cause, and that is where everything is falling apart.
Incumbent President Dr. Mohammad Wahid denied these claims, saying that there were no threats for Nasheed. President Dr. Wahid said former President Nasheed resigned on his own will and that it was done constitutionally. The security forces also denied any wrongdoing and also insisted former President Mohammad Nasheed resigned on his own free will and that military personnel had not threatened Nasheed. A seaplane of the Maldivian air taxi crashes this afternoon. None of the passengers or crew are injured. Zinat Hassan has more on this story.
According to GMR International Airport, the seaplane crashed while trying to land on the water runway on the eastern side of Lule Island Seaplane Lagoon. Andrew Harrison, CEO of GMR International Airport, said the aircraft crashed at 12:08 hours and that the aircraft was carrying 9 passengers and 3 crews at the time of the crash. Passengers include 2 British nationals, 4 Vietnamese nationals and 1 local. He said within 10 minutes from the incident, all passengers and crews were rescued and transferred to the MAT Seaplane Terminal. He said there were no injuries and medical assistance was provided on the ground for the passengers, some of whom were suffering from mild shock.
Unfortunately, there were no injuries, just mild shock among the passengers. There were 9 passengers who were traveling and there were 3 crew. One of the passengers was a Maldivian passenger and the others were foreign passengers who were traveling on connecting flights. Fortunately, we have a well-rehearsed airport emergency plan, which is planned in coordination with all the stakeholders. And so the response by MAT, our fire and rescue team, and all the other stakeholders who took part in the response meant that we were able to get the passengers rescued very quickly in less than 10 minutes and bring them into the seaplane terminal before they were transferred over to the airport terminal. Because they would have been slightly traumatized by this event, we chose to put them through the CIP lounge.
Even though there are no casualties, the aircraft was damaged and the right wing was partially in water.
The damage at the moment is limited to one of the floats, which is detached from the aircraft, and as a result of that, it's tilted to one side, and part of the wing, as you can see from the photograph, is actually in the water. But passengers were recovered safely and very quickly, and so the condition of the aircraft as it came to rest posed no danger. I think it's also important to note that this aircraft, this type of aircraft, is a very durable aircraft, and that's why it performs very well in this type of environment. And this being the largest seaplane, commercial seaplane operations in the world, means that the pilots and the operators have a lot of experience of operating seaplanes, particularly this type of traffic with tourists going between islands and the airport.
The Maldives Civil Aviation Authority and the National Aircraft Accident Investigation Committee has been formally notified and is on the scene. Andrew said that it's too early to speculate the cause of the crash. He also said that seaplane operations are continuing on the alternative water runways and the passengers were able to fly to their destinations safely.
As soon as it was known there was a problem, MAT actually contacted the airlines that the passengers were traveling on to let them know that there was a slight delay, and then we decided to put them in the CIP lounge so that CAD could interview the passengers while they were right there in the comfort of the CIP lounge. So basically it's these multi-stakeholders working together to make sure that the passengers' experience gets better, despite the fact that they had that incident. But there were no delays. The Air India flight operating today to Bangalore and Trivandrum, two of the passengers were traveling on it. That flight was delayed anyway, but it had nothing to do with this incident. And even though the aircraft, the seaplane was stuck there on the water runway, the other runways were operational, so it didn't disrupt the seaplane operations.
GMR says airport and seaplane operation is normal now and they are happy with the support they received from the relevant authorities. The aircraft was flying from Lily Beach Resort to Malé International Airport.
President Dr. Mohammad Wahid appoints Dr. Mohammad Jamil Ahmad as the Minister of Home Affairs and Mohammad Nazim as the Minister of Defence and National Security. Speaking after the presentation of the letter of appointment, President Wahid asked the ministers to employ their experiences to resolve the current situation of the country. He also noted that their foremost duty should be to implement justice according to the Constitution and to treat every citizen equally. Prior to the presentation of the letter of appointment, Dr. Jamil and Mohammad Nazim took their oath of office before the Supreme Court Judge Abdullah Arif. Dr. Jamil had previously held the post of Minister for Justice during President Mahmoud Abdul Gayoom's administration and the post of Minister for Civil Aviation and Communication during President Mohammad Nasheed's administration. Defence Minister Nazim had previously served as the positions of Lieutenant, First Lieutenant, Captain at the National Security Service and as a Major, Lieutenant Colonel and Colonel at the Maldives National Defence Force. New Home Minister Dr. Mohammad Jamil says yesterday's unrest and attacks which followed in the atolls were acts of terrorism. Speaking at a joint press conference today, Dr. Jamil said the perpetrators will be brought before justice. The press conference was held by the Home Minister and Defence Minister jointly with the Army and Police. Home Minister Dr. Jamil said yesterday's unrest caused huge damages to public and private property and said the letting loose of suspected criminals from the detention facilities in the atolls were acts of terrorism which will be tried at the courts.
Whether these kind of activities can be called as democratic activities, whether these can be activities can be justified as calling for, within the bounds of freedom of expression and freedom of protest and gatherings. No, clearly it doesn't. And I'm really sad. I call for international community, for the local citizens to assess what is going on, to properly inform yourself that what is going on cannot be justified in the name of democracy, in the name of freedom of expression, in the name of expressing your grievances as well. It is clearly beyond the limits of law.
New Commissioner of Police Abdullah Riyaz said he had to take job at the Maldives Police Service at trying times and said he